Welcome to the demo of the final project by the Steelman. As you can see, once you open up the Excel project file, it brings up a screen with the Start tab or worksheet and a Start Simulation button. Clicking on this button will start the simulation. So I'm going to click on it. A user form is generated which asks you to enter the total number of tasks. Now this project really does not have any limit on the total number of tasks that it can support. For the purpose of the demonstration, we have limited ourselves to 10. For now, I am going to enter 4 tasks. It asks you for the start date. Now this is the start date of the entire project, and it has to be entered in a specific format, which is MMDD_YYYY. So I enter a date. Then you can select the tasks. This particular list is stored within the project itself, and it can be altered according to the needs of the user. So I select painting as my first task. I select A as vendor. We have not named our vendors, but that's not a constraint. According to the user's preferences, the vendor names can be modified. There is no constraint on total number of vendors either. We also have the assumption that all vendors are capable of performing all the tasks. So the user knows best which vendor would be assigned to perform which task. Since painting is the first task, it will not have any dependency. That is another assumption that we have made over here. I enter 30 hours as the total number of hours that painting would take. Then I go to select my second task, which I want to be say fitting. I select vendor D to do fitting. I enter a dependency. I want to start fitting only after painting is over, and to complete fitting it takes me about 20 hours. Then I select my third task, which is welding. I want welding to be performed by vendor E, and even welding can start or welding would start after fitting is over. So I say the dependency is on 2, and for welding it's going to take me 10 hours, or let me say 12 hours, because I don't want to want it to appear that you need to have multiples of 10. You can enter any number. And finally I want to perform knurling, and for knurling I will select the same vendor D that we have used before, and then in terms of dependency I'll say finish knurling after fitting is over, and for knurling it's going to take me maybe 23 hours. I've entered all of my data. If there were multiple dependencies over here, for instance if knurling depended on welding as well, I could enter that multiple dependency in terms of comma separated numerals. So 2, 3 would basically indicate that knurling depends on task number 2, fitting, and task number 3, which is welding. But in this case we want it to depend only on fitting. So I have all the information entered, and I click on submit. As you can see, a final output has been generated. The 4 tasks that we selected, painting, fitting, welding, and knurling, would be shown in the first column. The total time taken to perform these tasks is 4 days. Now let me explain what each day really is. Each day is divided into 2 major shifts, which is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We are assuming a 24-hour work cycle. Within each shift there are 4-hour blocks. So this project is being tracked in terms of 4-hour blocks. which also means that if there is a particular task that ends that requires 21 hours, so it will take 6 blocks instead of 5, because the 5 blocks would be required for the first 20 hours of work, and the next, which is the sixth block, would be required to complete the 1 hour of work. So in that case, you would see some overlap, as you can see in fitting and painting. So fitting depends on painting getting completed before fitting can be commenced. Um, Other than that, this report also shows the exact date that the project was triggered on, and increments the dates until the last day of the project. You can also track it in terms of day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and so on. Uh, every task has a color code. So painting has its own color, fitting has its own color, welding has its own color, and knurling has its own color, which makes it really convenient to visually identify information. Now, we had selected 3 distinct vendors to perform these 4 tasks. For every vendor, a separate worksheet is generated. So for vendor A, this worksheet is generated because vendor A is supposed to complete painting. And as you would see, there is only 1 bar because that's the only task assigned to vendor A, and this matches exactly what you can see on the final combined worksheet. Similarly, for vendor D, who was assigned to complete fitting and knurling, there are 2 bars that you can see, and the colors are consistent on the individual vendor chart as well as on the final charts. And vendor E is supposed to do welding, and even those colors are consistent. So this is our attempt at providing a really simple but effective project management and project planning tool to the user. This whole model is extremely scalable, subject to any constraints that Excel itself has. I don't, or we don't see any limitations, any serious limitations. We are going to work a little bit more on this to add some more bells and whistles, if we may call those, but they are going to make life further easier for the user. One of which probably could be the weekend days could be marked in a different color, just so for longer projects the user can easily tell which are the weekend days. Is weekend, especially if weekend work requires paying overtime, that's going to factor into their calculations, and so on. Thank you.